What if I told you that the most powerful off-grid system ever designed doesn't use a single solar panel, but is technically classified as an environmental hazard in 35 US states? In the 1930s, deep within the rugged mountains of Germany, a unique breed of self-sufficiency was born. While the rest of the world began relying on centralized power grids, German families did the exact opposite. They perfected a brutal, hyper-efficient style of off-grid survival. They engineered water systems out of raw stone and preserved food for years without a single watt of power. But today, a staggering number of these traditional European survival methods are technically classified as building code violations or completely illegal under modern zoning laws. If you use trick number 3 on this list today, you violate 3 local regulations, but you will never pay a utility bill again. Welcome to the forbidden blueprint of German sovereignty. Hit subscribe because we are counting down the 15 forbidden off-grid tricks of the German Großeltern. Number 15. The hydraulic ram pump, der hydraulische Widder. Imagine forcing thousands of gallons of water to pump themselves up a steep mountain. With zero electricity, zero solar energy, and zero fuel, it sounds like a violation of physics. It's called the hydraulische Widder. It uses a physical phenomenon called water hammer, a kinetic shock wave created when flowing water is suddenly stopped by a valve. This shock wave slams a fraction of the water uphill, running 24/7 without maintenance. But try to install a non-regulated gravity-fed hydraulic ram into a natural stream today. The EPA and local bureaucrats will fine you instantly. Why? Because a man with pressurized infinite water who doesn't owe a dime to the county is a dangerous precedent. The secret OPA used? You don't need expensive cast iron valves. You can build a functioning ram pump today using less than $40 worth of standard PVC check valves from Home Depot. It delivers a 10-to-1 pressure ratio for free. But as powerful as infinite water is, it's nothing compared to the psychological weapon we are revealing at number 1. A trick so dangerous to the modern banking elite, they spent billions trying to make you forget it. First, let's look at a trick that county inspectors literally cannot see from the road. Number 14. The invisible mound cellar, die Erdmiete. Building a standard root cellar requires engineered blueprints and thousands in county permits. German grandmothers smiled, grabbed a shovel, and built something that doesn't exist on any government map, the Erdmiete. They dug a deep, narrow trench directly into the thermal mass of the earth, lined it with unchopped rye straw, packed it with vegetables, and covered it back up with soil. To the untrained eye, it looks like a natural mound, but beneath that dirt, the earth locks the temperature at a flawless 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Potatoes stay crisp until May with zero electricity and zero digital footprint. You can build a micro-stealth version of this weekend using an old clean clay pot buried up to its rim and packed with sand. Number 13. The Poacher's Trench, die Erdselche. In times of crisis, if authorities saw smoke rising from your chimney, it meant you had meat, and they took it. That's why German poachers invented the Erdselche, the underground smokehouse. Instead of a building on the surface, they dug a fireplace into a hillside and ran a 20-foot underground pipe made of flat stones leading to a buried barrel. By the time the smoke traveled through the cold earth, it lost its heat, cold curing the meat perfectly while the smoke itself dissipated invisible into the soil. Modern health departments ban home cold smoking, yet this exact setup kept generations alive when the grid was bombed out of existence. Number 12. The weaponized weed matrix, die Brennnesseljauch. If the food grid collapses, you don't just need seeds, you need nitrogen or your plants starve. Modern agriculture wants you to buy petroleum-based chemical fertilizers. OPA used Brennnesseljauche. They stuffed wild, stinging nettles into a barrel of rainwater and let it ferment for 14 days. It smells putrid, but chemically it is a biological nuclear weapon for your garden, packed with nitrogen, iron, and potassium, while the sheer odor acts as a devastating pest repellent. The system wants you to buy their plastic bottles, but OPA used a bucket of rotting weeds to grow massive crops for free. Number 11, the ancient sponge bed, das Hügelbett. Modern gardening tells you to buy complex drip irrigation systems to survive a drought. German permaculture pioneers created a method that forces rotting wood to do the mechanical work for you, Hügelkultur. You bury massive decaying hardwood logs beneath a mound of soil. Those logs act as a colossal underground sponge, soaking up winter rains and releasing moisture to plant roots all summer. During a scorching August drought, a Hügelbett remains completely self-watering, while the decomposing wood warms the soil and extends your growing season. Some strict HOAs ban these mounds, calling them an eyesore. OPA called it guaranteed survival. Number 10. The glass-to-glass isolation, das Einwecken. The modern agricultural guidelines tell you to be terrified of home preservation. The USDA strictly mandates that for low-acid foods like meats and stews you must use expensive mechanical pressure canners or face deadly botulism. It has frightened an entire generation into abandoning food preservation altogether. But long before these warnings, a German engineer patented a system that relied on pure physics, the Weck jar. Unlike American jars with single-use metal lids, the German method uses a glass lid, a heavy reusable vulcanized rubber ring, and steel clips. By boiling the jars in a simple cauldron for extended periods, the heat destroys harmful bacteria and the expanding steam pushes air out. As it cools, atmospheric pressure slams the glass lid down, vacuum locking it. If the seal fails, the rubber ring points down, a foolproof visual warning that kept families alive through world wars using nothing but boiling water. Number 9. The charcoal cold box, der Kohlekühlschrank. How did Opa keep his dairy fresh in July without solar panels or propane? It's a forgotten piece of thermodynamic genius called the Kohlekühlschrank. It's a double-walled wooden box with a 3-inch gap packed with porous charcoal. Every morning, Opa poured cold well water over the charcoal. As the dry summer air hit the damp charcoal, it triggered evaporative cooling, stripping latent heat directly from the inner chamber and dropping the temperature by up to 20 degrees. Modern building codes require mechanical refrigeration, outlawing basic physics to keep you hooked to the electric meter. Number 8. The peg-locked timber joinery, die Zapfenverbindung. Now, you might think this next trick is just about building a rugged shed. You are wrong. Number 8 is about outlasting steel. While modern preppers spend thousands of dollars on steel brackets and zinc screws, German master carpenters used a biological locking mechanism called die Zapfenverbindung. Mortise and tenon timber framing secured exclusively with hand-carved oak pegs. When moisture rises, the wooden pegs expand with the beams, locking the structure tighter over centuries. This is the exact evolutionary root of why communities like the Amish in America can thrive completely off the grid today. They carried this ancient German resource knowledge across the Atlantic. Modern residential codes reject structures without metal fasteners, yet these exact peg-locked farmsteads have stood in Germany for over 600 years without shifting an inch. Number 7. The biological soap degreaser, die Aschenlauge. If the supply chains stop, commercial soap disappears, turning minor hygiene issues into medical crises. German grandmothers never threw away white hardwood ash. They mixed it with rainwater to create Aschenlauge, or potash lye water. This alkaline liquid chemically binds with grease and old animal fats, transforming them instantly through saponification into a powerful cleaning soap that cuts through grease on iron pans free of charge. Regulations classify open lye solutions as hazardous, but Oma knew it was just pure, natural chemistry that dissolved safely back into the soil. Number 6. The pure oil lamp tallow inversion. Kerosene is toxic, highly flammable, and breaks down over time. Batteries and solar panels eventually fail. German homesteaders bypass this by rendering down raw animal fats into solid tallow blocks. When melted into a simple clay dish with a braided hemp wick, it burns completely odorless, bright, and clean. Modern fire codes discourage home-rendered open fat lamps, labeling them a hazard. but it gave our grandparents an infinite source of indoor light generated directly from their own livestock harvest. Number 5. The hammered Loden jacket, das Lodenwagen. Before we hit the top 4, we need to look at what German mountain settlers wore into battle against the elements. Forget military-grade Gore-Tex or synthetic survival gear. This next ancient material is completely fire-resistant, self-healing, and sheds torrential rain like plastic. It's called Loden. They took raw sheep's wool, wove it loosely, and hammered it with wooden mallets in hot mountain water until it shrunk by 40% into a dense, windproof fabric. They then treated it with pure sheep lanolin oil. The result? A jacket you can stand in a torrential downpour with for 6 hours without a single drop soaking through, while remaining completely fire-resistant next to a camp stove. Number 4. The heirloom seed, Matrix Samenfeste Sorten. Traditional German gardeners never bought commercial seed packets. Every autumn, they harvested the seeds from the absolute strongest, most frost-resistant cabbage, kale, and rye plants. These were Samenfest, or open-pollinated heirloom varieties, bred over generations to survive brutal winters. Today, saving and replanting certain patented, genetically modified commercial seeds can trigger severe legal corporate lawsuits. OPA's rule was simple: if you don't own the seed from your own harvest, you don't own your food supply. Number 3. The deep well sovereignty crackdown. This is the one they fought the hardest to ban. In the 20th century, commercial well drilling companies lobbied aggressively to push through heavy licensing laws, making it a fine offense to construct a hand-dug well without a certified contractor. The stated reason? Aquifer safety. The actual reason? Complete control over your water. OPA didn't buy a deep submersible electric pump that fries the moment an EMP hits. He used a hand-dug, stone-cased shallow well combined with a gravity-fed water system. A man with a drilled well and an electric pump is one blackout away from dehydration. A man with a traditional German gravity well has a sovereign water fortress as long as physics exists. Number 2. The fire-baked oak bark tanning, Die Lagerberei. Modern commercial tanning relies on chromium salts, a toxic chemical process that ruins local water tables and requires massive industrial facilities. OPA used Lagerbung. They stripped the bark from oak trees harvested in spring, crushed it, and soaked it in deep water pits with animal hides for up to a full year. The natural tannins in the oak bark permanently preserve the leather, making it completely rot-proof, waterproof, and tough enough for heavy boots and harnesses. Environmental agencies heavily regulate home tanning pits due to industrial lumping, but oak bark tanning is completely natural, closed-loop, and non-toxic. Number 1. The inflexible rule of the Haushaltsbuch. The final trick, the most illegal act a human can perform in a modern surveillance economy. It's not a weapon, and it's not a safe. It is the inflexible mathematical sovereign will of the German grandparents. It's called the Haushaltsbuch, the unyielding household ledger. Today, the modern economy is meticulously engineered to keep you in a perpetual cycle of invisible debt. Subscription models, digital credit cards, and instant loans are designed to separate you from your resources. The Grosseltern didn't operate on speculation. Every single calorie of grain harvested, every piece of firewood stacked, every single pfennig spent was recorded with mathematical discipline before the winter frost hit. In a world that wants you dependent on a corporate supply chain, the act of keeping a strict physical ledger of your life and refusing to spend wealth you do not possess is the ultimate act of rebellion. The grid wants you dependent, but your lineage proves you can be sovereign. That knowledge didn't die, it just went quiet. Pick just one trick this week. Grab a physical ledger or plant an heirloom seed. Tell me in the comments which piece of your autonomy you are clawing back first. Stay sovereign. See you next time.